Is chapter 8 that we're talking about benchmarking. And this chapter talks about one of the best sources of information can be looking at others. So it's important that you look at what is happening in the industry. For example, if you're, let's say, a restaurant, maybe you want to look at other restaurants. You want to look at maybe performance indicators. Maybe you want to look at what is the average number of employees per branch, what is the average price, how much is their maybe average cost per meal, maybe how many customers they have. So there are a lot of things that you can get an idea about your quality level comparing with everyone else. Let's say you're producing this car. Your customers will probably evaluate your car against your competitors. So here comes the importance of understanding, maybe you look at it from an economic perspective. If you increase prices or if you drop prices, how many people will switch back to you. But at the same time, you want to look at it from a quality perspective, which is the quality of your product compared with your competitors. These benchmarking, it can help you understand where you are. It's not just for profit or sales, but it can go into actual performance of your products. So understanding our competitors, we begin to understand the marketplace better. And then benchmarking is an organization recognized for its exemplary operational performance, and benchmarking is the sharing of information between companies so that both can improve. Remember when I was working at the IBY, there used to be some sort of a across the board, all banking industry HR managers meet. So these are human resource managers. They do a meeting, and then in the meeting, they will discuss different job positions. Let's say a department manager, credit officer, cashier. What is the job description? And then they also share their salaries. They share bonuses, number of days vacation, risk allowance. So this sharing of information, it can provide everyone with a better understanding of what is happening in the market, so that you can improve your quality. Maybe it's like you improve your job description, you improve employee benefits, you kind of reach a standardized definition for what cashiers do or cashiers don't do. Maybe you can reach an understanding of what type of training is needed. If there is a training, it can service more than one organization, and at the same time, this training will meet the minimum requirement by several organizations. So there are areas where it's not really about competition between the businesses, rather it's cooperation. How can we all improve our services? Or how can we compete on quality terms? Or how can we improve our quality by sharing information? If you look at benchmarking, it's a systematic method by which organizations can measure themselves against the best industry practice. So what we mean by systematic method is you go on a system. So maybe every year we have this meeting, and every year we look into these job descriptions, and then every year we kind of improve what we do and we share it. This way we can have some sort of an understanding of, where is this measurement or this operation or function is compared with the others in the industry. The definition, continuation, it promotes superior performance by providing an organized framework through which organizations learn. So how the best in class do things. So maybe we can agree that, you look at the, let's say if we're talking about the banking industry, you're going to look into all banks, and then you will start to have something called, adequacy ratio. And then, you look at this ratio and it becomes a standard. All banks, they try to reach this level. Maybe if we look at how much is the average loan that maybe banks provide. If you have this information, you know all other banks, then you are able to get some sort of a best in class. So the best banks, they provide this level of key performance indicator, and then it can be a gauge for everyone to follow. If you talk about restaurants, maybe you can do, this is like the best in class performance measurement, which is, let's say, how much it takes for the order to be delivered to the customer. So how much time is going to be an example for, maybe the average is like 5 minutes. This way, you know that all restaurants of this class, they provide service within 5 minutes, okay? Or maybe they clean their floors every 1 hour. Then these become some sort of standards that you can follow. Understanding how these best practices differ from their own. So if the industry average is 10 minutes and you do it in 5, then you're faster than. If you're doing it in 15, then you know that you are slower. We talked about pizza delivery. You can see from different markets. Let's say maybe in one market the average delivery for a pizza is 30 minutes. Some places it's 15. Some areas it's 45 minutes. So this kind of give you an indication about this level of performance. And for all of these delivery businesses, they know that the industry average is, let's say, 30 minutes. Then they try to beat with this, to compete at the 30-minute level. And it can implement change. So you know where to start your change so that you can achieve better quality. Why we benchmark? Benchmarking, it's a tool to achieve business and competitive objectives. And it's powerful and extremely effective when used for the right reasons and aligned with the organizational strategy. So your strategy, let's say you're a restaurant and your strategy is to provide fast service. Then you can focus on these time-related performance indicators, and you continue to work on improving them. This way you can have a strategy to be like a very fast type of restaurant. And it requires external orientation. So instead of you only look at inside your company, you also look at outside your company. And it's crucial, especially in a world of competition. This can easily be on the other side of the globe. Benchmarking inspire managers and organizations to compete. Sometimes if you look at, there are some industries that's on a global standard. For example, international standards, let's say for banking, is becoming this set of adequacy ratio. Then you can compete with banks across the globe because banks have gone global, and competition is becoming worldwide. Then this benchmarking can give you an indication of what is happening around the world. And is time and cost efficient due to imitation and adaptation rather than invention? So one of the good things about benchmarking is you start to search what are the benchmarking criteria, and then that's where you start from. So instead of you have to create the wheel or you invent what you want to compete with others on, no, you just start with the benchmarking KPIs and then you work on them. Now, the main problem is that the best class is a moving target. That's one of the main problems with benchmarking. What's the problem with benchmarking? It's a moving target. What does a moving target mean? It means it's not every day the same. So maybe today, if you start to benchmark, let's say you benchmark banks, maybe today we're looking at an adequacy of ratio of 2. Maybe tomorrow it has increased. If you look at restaurants, maybe one of the things is how many new products they have. That's one of the benchmarking areas. And then maybe now it's more of the service. Maybe after a while it moves to the diet level. And then if you look at maybe food, maybe you look at a percent or amount of calories in a meal. So maybe you can benchmark yourself with what is the average calories per meal. This average calories per meal can be, let's say, 200 calories. After a while, maybe it will change. It's no longer 200. It's just becoming 150. You see, so this kind of, it's not one target that you want to focus on it, rather it's a moving target. The number may change, the KPI may change, the focus may change over time. So that's one of the issues with benchmarking. How do you do this benchmarking? Organizations that benchmark, they will adapt processes to best fit their own needs and culture. So probably you can benchmark yourself in a lot of indicators. You can do financial indicators, human resource indicators, customer service indicators, operational. Now here comes that companies will start to choose whatever fit their need. So if they're focused on customer service, then maybe they will go after customer service benchmarking indicators. If they are more interested in, let's say, cost reduction, then maybe they will focus on what are the best practices in terms of cost and how can they reduce their cost. Also their culture. Although the number of steps in the process may vary from an organization to an organization, we've got those 6 steps that has the core technique. So what are the 6 steps? Step number 1 is you want to decide what you want to benchmark. Customer service, financials, human resource. You want to understand what is your current performance. How are you doing currently on customer service or on your HR or on your cost. And then you want to make a plan. So my plan is I will improve my customer service. I will have a response rate. People, if they call us, they will get a response, on average less than 5 minutes. And then you start to study others. Okay, what others are doing. Others, their average response rate is, let's say, 7 minutes or 8 or 3 or 2, or you look at the industry average and the average is 10. Then you learn from where you are, where the others are, and then you start to use this finding to improve. So you will start to look at others. Okay, so why do they have faster customer service? They do faster customer service because let's see, they look at the number of let's say if we're talking about telecommunication companies, because people call them over the phone and they need service. Now you look at telecommunication services, how many customers they have, how many employees they have, what is their employee ratio to their number of subscribers, maybe how well is their coverage. If they have very good coverage, then maybe the number of calls will be dropped, maybe not. What is their pricing strategy so they can cover their costs. So you look at all of the things that has to do with this customer service level, in terms of resources, in terms of people, in terms of training, and then you start to benchmark yourself against your industry. So the industry average customer service employee receive 3 months of training per year. So how many training months do we provide our people? 1. Then we need to improve it. You see, you look at number of calls that you receive. How many number of calls you receive, number of calls they receive. This way you can compare. So maybe you want to see what will make your number of calls drop. And then you start to work on all of these indicators so that you can improve your performance, and at the same time, compared to the competition, you do better. So here's the steps. Again, it says decide what you want to benchmark. Countless areas for improvement. Not all of these can be tackled at once. You can't do all of the performance indicators once. Too many simultaneous, happening at the same time. Changes can result in a confused organization, actual kind of hard performance. So sometimes, if you want to look at this customer service, maybe there is, maybe 10 things you need to look at. We talked about coverage, dropped calls, customers calling, number of customers, amount of training, a facility used, number of callers or employees. So here, if you start to change one of these, it becomes very complicated. It's not easy. So that's, they happen at the same time. So one must prioritize. So here comes the priority. So maybe we will focus on customers, and we will focus first. We will focus on customer service, and we will focus on employee training. So let's focus on employee training, the quality of the training our employees get, how much training they get, how much is their average experience, what skill set they need to have. You compare, what is your average knowledge of your employee compared with the industry. So here, maybe you start to prioritize. We will focus on employee. And to do that, you must have identified your key processes, and charted, done a plan, what would be done to achieve these processes in the future analysis. So we focused on customer service, and that's where we go. Some other people will say, okay, we will not focus on our customer service. We want to focus on our cost. So we will look at our cost. We will look into how can we reduce cost. How can we convince our suppliers to reduce cost. How can we reduce waste? So that's another area, another priority, and another focus, and you benchmark that area compared with the industry averages so that you can see where you can improve. Most organizations have strategies that define how the firm wants to position itself and compete in the marketplace. So here it comes, remember in your strategy class or your policy class where you're talking about this, where do you want to focus on? Are you more, let's say, customer oriented, like customer service you focus on? Or are you more into reducing cost and having cost leadership so that you have lower prices, and then that's how you compete in the market? So this strategy is usually expressed in terms of your vision and your mission, and supporting these statements is a set of critical activities which organization must successfully implement to realize this vision. So you want to look at two critical success factors. So is our success really coming from our customer service, or is it coming from our cost reduction? So that's when you decide what you want to benchmark. In general, when deciding what to benchmark, it is best to begin thinking about the mission and your critical success factors. Say hiring, training, that's another example, financial managers. And it's best not to choose too large scope. So even if you choose, let's say, customer service, maybe you want to look deep. Maybe you want to focus on only employee training, or you look into facilities, infrastructure. So that's for step one. Now, step two, you start to understand current performances. So the benchmarking team, they should be comprised of those who own and work in the process to ensure suggested changes are actually implemented. So if we're going to benchmark customer service, then do I want to involve customer service people? That's where you need to start. So you need to go customer service people, let's agree, what are the key performance indicators? What do we want to focus on? What do we want to benchmark? We start to have these people to meet with the, maybe to do these cluster meetings, or attend conferences, or follow up benchmarking standards, and you want to document this process to quantify it, like hourly rates. For example, if you're doing customer service, you want to check, let's say, employees, how much they're paid, employee training, how much is the employee training, where they're getting training, what type of trainers they get, what type of... After you understand this current, you want to start to plan. You make decisions about how to conduct this study. You select the team. Team should decide what type of benchmarking to perform, and what type of data are to be collected, and the method of collection. Benchmarking databases, public domain, trade journals. So here, where you start to get this information. So here it comes the need for these research organizations where they provide this benchmarking information. For example, let's say from our area here, like in education, higher education, we have, let's say, Yemen accreditation, academic accreditation, reassurance agency. These people, their job is to provide accreditations for universities, and they provide this benchmarking information. So they will look at every university, and they will look into the number of students, average number of students per class, average number of instructors per students, or number of students per instructors. They will look into how much is the green area per, we talked about these last class, areas, how much is green areas on campus, percentage of facilities and services, number of books per students or per department or per program. So these are all ratios that can be used, collect for all universities, and then these people, they generate the averages. They don't maybe have to say, okay, this university is doing this much, but they can generate data that says, overall, the average number of classroom, in this industry, in this maybe geographical location, is 20 students. This way, for any university that has 20 or more, they know that they are above the industry average. If they have less than 20, they know that they're below the industry average. So here we've got like databases and maybe sometimes public domains, depending on what information, or trade journals. Many types of benchmarking. You can do process. So you compare processes. Okay, let's say maybe like training, financial performance. Financial benchmarking, you'll compare business results like profit margin. For example, if you go to like all supermarkets, they make 10% profit on average on their Zabadi and daily fast consumable goods. Performance, compared, let's say, cost structure or quality level. For example, how is the performance of, let's say, a car? How long it takes to break, or what type of pressure it's needed to break the window, or you see. So these are like performance measurements. You can do product, like you're comparing products and attributes and functionality. You guys remember when they started to do this? They do like a stress tests for mobile phones. As soon as a new mobile phone comes in, people take it, they bend it, they put it in a mixer, they throw it to the water, they make it fall from a distance, and so they do all of these types of testing. Now here it comes, if you do this for all organizations, then you have a benchmark. Like an average mobile phone will break under this much pressure or under this temperature. So these are like attributes. And then strategic benchmarking, firm competitiveness along several dimensions. So here comes, let's say, you look into different organizations. Let's say that you work on the car industry. You start to see a strategic benchmark. So maybe some organizations, their strategy is more on lower costs. Some their strategy on better customer service. Others' strategy goes on differentiation. So what is the level? This way you can compare yourself on a strategic level with all of the other industry players. And then functional benchmarking, you compare or comparing or learning how another firm performs a particular function. So how do they do this particular function? Let's say how they do marketing. So you compare yourself. I remember when I used to work in the bank, we used to have this report that tells us today, these are all media outlets, newspapers, radio, TV, and then they tell you which all of the other competing banks, how much advertising they are doing on these channels, and it gives you your percentage. So here, on the radio, you have 10% of all banking advertising. On the TV, you have 0%, and these are the other players. So here it kind of tells you this advertising function, how you are working compared with everyone else in the market. Types of data that you can collect. You can collect financial ratios. How many people did not take the finance class? In finance class, if you remember, let's say chapter 3, they talks about financial ratios. So you look at profitability ratio, debt to assets ratio, how much is returns on assets. These are financial ratios. You also look at productivity ratios, how many units you produce per hour. You look at customer-related results. You look at average customer satisfaction. Operating results, you look into how many orders delivered on time, per hour or per day or per unit of analysis. Human resources measures, like what's your turnover, how much is your average salary, how much is employee performance, what is the average level of people who join your company, how many people you hire per year, how many people you fire, how many people leave you, how many people wish to join you, how many people apply to you. Quality measurements, like you're talking about like quality, like from different perspective. Market share data, like what is your market share in terms of this market and that market. If you have more than one product, how is the profit share or how is the market share for each of your products? So if you have Toyota, what is the market share of your Lexus, or your market share of your Land Cruisers? So here you start to look into market share data and structural measures. such as how's your organization, how many departments you have, how many employees you have, how many levels, what type of relationships you have with your stakeholders, with your stockholders, with your suppliers, with your so all of these are types of data. So you want to make a plan, which one you use. After that, you start to study others. So here, how is the best-in-class processes are practiced? You want to see process in action, face-to-face. You contact with the best-in-class operator. So maybe in the best-in-class in terms of customer service, this particular company, maybe you want to go and check them. The best-in-class in quality is this company, in financial, in cost, and then the measurable results of these practices. So that's when they do these meetings where they get together and they discuss. So here, in step 4, you start to look at other people what they're doing, and then step 5, you want to learn. Okay, so you learned. You want to learning from the data collected in a benchmarking study involves answering these questions. So number 1, there's a gap between your performance and the best-in-class organizations. So maybe average customer, they get answered in 7 minutes, while in the industry average, it's 5. Then you are 2 minutes later. So what do you need to do? So you start to see, is it people taking longer time? Do I have less people? Do I need to train more people? Do I need to hire new people? Do I need to change my hiring process? Do I want to improve my training programs? Do you see? So this is about the gap. So you find the gap analysis, we call it. So what is the gap? A negative gap, positive gap, parity, how much is it? So what if the market average 10 minutes to pick up customer call and you're doing 7? That's great. So here you're doing very good improvement. So maybe you want to understand, why is it that you're faster? Do you have better quality, more people? So is this where you want to be? Do you want to be like the average? And why is this gap happening? What does the best-in-class do differently if that is better? And if best-in-class practices were adopted, what will be the resulting improvements? So if you're, let's say, you're behind the industry best class, then, if you start to do like the best-in-class, what they do, what is going to happen, how much it will cost you, where you improve, how it can improve, what is going to happen. Are you guys okay from this learning from the data? Then number 6, you start to actually use it. So you learned, and now when benchmarking study reveals negative gap in the performance, the objective is to change this process to close the gap. And to affect change, the findings must be communicated to the people within the organization who can enable improvement. So here, you decided, we noticed our customer service is not good. We're not doing proper training like the other competitors do. So let's train them better. And in order to train, if we do better training, they can improve, they can go faster, they will be more efficient, they will be able to quickly solve customer complaints, and customers will be happier. So these findings must translate into goals. So now, in order to do that, our goal is to improve our training, and we want to have this instead of 7.5, and this is the action plan, and it has to be developed and implemented. There's some new process in terms of how we're using it. Are you guys okay with these 6 steps? All right. So someone would like to remind us the 6 steps again? Study. So number 1, you need to decide. See, first thing here, you want to decide what you want to do. And then you understand the kind of performance, and then you plan. And then you study others, you learn from the data, and then you use the finding. Okay. Now, if we continue and we look at this criticism of benchmarking. So what do people say about benchmarking? Some people say it is copying others. But, do you see there's a but? How can an organization even survive if it loses track of its external environment? So here, it is copying, true, but it's not bad. No innovation. However, you see, it's like but. It's a source of idea from outside the organization. So even though it is no innovation, but you start to get ideas from others. And it's not a panacea, so cure-all solution. So some people think that benchmarking should solve all the problems. It's not solve all the problems, but to be effective, you must be used properly. It's not very helpful if it's used for processes that do not offer much opportunity for improvement. So, it will not solve everything, but it will, if you focus on what's important, it is going to help you solve some of the problems. Okay? And here's the end of chapter question. Explain how an organization might benefit from benchmarking organizations in a completely different industry. So this is your exercise. Take 5 minutes and you think about this question.